Tina always sat in the fifth seat of the bus. It was the seat that her mother told her she should sit in. Tina's mother told her that 5 was a lucky number. So every day after school when Tina got on the bus, she would head for seat 5. She counted aloud as she walked past the other seats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then she would shout 5 and jump into the seat. None of the other kids seemed to mind. None of the other kids, that is, except Jessie. Jessie would sometimes put up a fuss and not want to let her sit there. Tina had known Jessie all her life, or at least since kindergarten, which was 2 years ago now. They were currently in the same 2nd grade class together, and at recess, Jessie would sneak up behind her and take off her barrettes. He would then run and shout, "Can't catch me, can't catch me," at the top of his lungs. He was right. She couldn't catch him. However, once, when Jessie was running with the barrettes, he looked back to see if Tina was following him. He tripped and his speed carried him head first into the ground. Tina laughed uncontrollably when this had happened. That was until Jessie got up and made a face at her. Tina stopped laughing then, but she laughed again later that night when she told her mother about the incident. Tina had also confided to her mom that Jessie was a booger. Today when Tina got to her seat, she found that Jessie was already there. He grinned when he saw her. She could see the empty spaces in his mouth where he had recently lost some of his baby teeth. When the teeth had fallen out, Jessie proudly brought them to school for show and tell. "You're in my seat," Tina said as she got to seat 5. "No, I'm not. I was here first," he replied defiantly. She knew from much experience that there was no use in trying to argue with Jessie too much. You can't argue with a booger. To make matters worse, being the booger that he was hogging up the whole seat. "Well, move over," Tina said, "so I can sit too." "There's not enough room," was Jessie's response, and he spread his whole body over the seat. "Move," Tina said, and smacked his leg. "Ow," he screamed. Tina's actions had the desired effect, and Jessie moved his legs. Tina climbed into the seat and made herself comfortable for the trip home. "Look what I got," Jessie suddenly exclaimed. From his pocket he pulled out a little black beetle. "Ew, that's gross." "Here, hold it," Jessie said, and pushed the beetle towards her. Smack! Tina hit his leg again. "I'm not touching that." "Fine," Jessie said, and put the bug back in his pocket. The engine started and the doors to the bus closed. The bus began its journey and Jessie began telling knock-knock jokes. He had a million of them. As the bus moved closer to its first stop, Jessie was on his 12th joke of the trip. "Knock, knock." "Who's there?" Tina asked. "Boo." "Boo-hoo." "Sorry, didn't mean to make you cry." Tina laughed hysterically at this. "Train track!" someone in the front of the bus yelled. It was Peter, a 1st grader that always sat in the front of the bus. Everyone got excited. This was always the best part of the ride home. The bus passed the railroad crossing before the first stop. The bus would jolt as the front tires went over the tracks, and then jolt again as the back tires went over the tracks. The kids loved this part of the trip. If you jumped at just the right moment, the jolt would pop you up in the air like a cannonball. It was always the highlight of the after-school ride home. The kids were all quiet with anticipation. Tina was ready. She looked at Jessie, who was smiling his semi-toothless grin. The bus slowed. After a few moments, it moved forward. The first set of wheels went over the tracks. The children jumped. Instantly, the bus filled with giggles as the children landed back in their seats. The children prepared themselves for the next jolt. They could barely contain their excitement. They waited, but nothing happened. There was no second bump. Instead, the bus came to a stop. "Damn it," Mr. Tuskell, the bus driver, hollered. "No good piece of crap." Tina's hands went up to her mouth when she heard that. The bus driver just used a bad word. Now he was turning the key in the ignition, trying to get the engine started again, but nothing was happening. Mr. Tuskell pulled the lever to open the door and then got out of his seat. A few moments later, he was outside under the hood of the bus. Tina looked at Jessie. "Did you hear what he said?" she asked. She was amazed that the bus driver used that kind of language. "What, crap?" Jessie asked. Tina's hand shot up to her mouth again. "My dad says it all the time. Or sometimes." Outside, Tuskell stared at the engine. Why, God, he thought, why me? All he wanted to do was get these kids home and to get back to his house and finish the last of the Wild Turkey whiskey bottle that was in the living room. It didn't seem like too much to ask, did it? But now this. The stupid bus breaking down. This could take all day. If he couldn't figure out what was wrong with it, he would have to call the school, get another bus to come pick up the little brats, and then wait around for a mechanic to come out and look at the bus. They might have to tow it. Why me, he thought again. He studied the engine, but he knew he wouldn't figure out what was wrong with the damn thing. He was paid to drive the bus, not to fix it. He wasn't even sure why he was bothering to pop the hood. Did he think he was going to see that the battery had fallen out and that all he had to do was put it back? Or that some hose labeled "Connect Me Here" was loose? He looked up from the engine. Where was the nearest house, he wondered? Somewhere he could use a phone. And what the hell was he supposed to do with all these kids? He couldn't just leave them here. But he didn't like the idea of them all following him like a little trail of ducks either. Tusco looked at his surroundings. The place the bus had stopped at was a remote area. Who lived out here, he wondered. He tried hard to remember, but he couldn't. Peter's house was the nearest stop, but it was still some distance up the road. Damn it, Tusco muttered and looked at the engine again. He desperately hoped that he would see a loose cable, or maybe he just needed to tighten something. Inside the bus, Tina pulled out her coloring book. She was now being quite productive, and she was almost finished coloring a whole picture when Jessie took her crayon. "Hey, give that back!" "No, I'm playing with it," Jessie said, and stuck out his tongue. Knock-knock jokes were over, it would appear, and now he was back to being a booger. "You weren't playing with it." Now," Jessie said. He was acting like the crayon was an airplane. "But it's mine." So? Tina was distressed because she had already started coloring Snow White's hair purple, and if she couldn't finish the picture with that same color, then the whole picture would be ruined. That's when she heard it. "What was that?" she asked Jessie. "What?" Jessie asked. There it was again. "That noise." Jessie shrugged. "I don't know." Tina put her coloring book down and looked out the window. "Jessie, there's a train coming." "What do you mean?" Tina pointed out the window. "The train's coming." Now Jessie looked out the window to see what she was pointing at. There it was. A train. It was coming around a turn. There was something in Tina's mind, a thought that was scratching its way to the surface. Something that was important. It had to do with the bus. She looked at Jessie. He just sat there, his eyes wide. Something was wrong, Tina thought. It had to do with... She couldn't quite figure it out. It had to do with earlier. The bounce. That's what it was. That's what her mind was trying to tell her. The bus had bounced once. Not twice. The front tires were over the tracks, but not the back tires. All of a sudden, it was clear to Tina that they were on the tracks. The bus was stopped on the tracks. Now the train was coming. Tina looked out the window again. The sound of the approaching train was deafening. It was getting louder with each moment. Tina started to scream.